short video will briefly explain how to sail radio-controlled model square riggers. It will show several different models, but the principles involved remain the same. What we'll look at is running, which means sailing with the wind from behind the boat. With the yards squared, that's at 90 degrees to the hull, the boat will move forward and just needs steering. The sails will drive the model faster if the wind is taken from one quarter, that's over the boat's shoulder as it were, or the other. And usually you'll run out of water on a pond quite quickly. If you take the wind on the quarter, the yards will need bracing, that's moving round, to keep the sails at 90 degrees to the wind. It will be apparent that in good wind, the bows are driven down into the water. That was a feature of the real ships too. Next we'll cover beating, which means sailing close to the wind. When you sail on a pond, you very quickly run out of space when running and have to get back up the pond. You do that by beating or sailing as close to the wind as possible. The models turn towards the wind and the yards braced right round as far as they will go to allow the sails to keep the wind just behind them. The spanker, the yacht-like sail on the aftermast, is pulled in tight to keep the bows into the wind, and the rudder is used to just keep the model from being taken aback. That's getting the wind onto the forepart of the sails and stopping the boat. In some of these shots you'll see reduced sail in use. Sail is reduced to cope with heavy weather. If you watch the sails on the masts at the after end of the models, you'll see them twitch as the wind almost gets on the wrong side of them, including on Herzogenae Cecilia near Cape Horn. The models can only be brought to about 65 degrees to the wind, just like the real ships, so many tacks are needed to get back up the pond. In the next part we will look at wearing ship. As you beat the model up the pond, you run out of room and have to change tack. That is to take the wind from the other side in order to make more progress. Wearing ship is one way of doing this. On real vessels it was done in anything other than very light winds. On models it's less critical, but is still the most reliable way of going about from one tack to the other. Wearing ship involves turning away from the wind, which is made easier by letting out the spanker and bracing the after yards more square to the hull. As the model starts to run with the wind, the yards are squared, and as the turn is continued, the yards are braced round onto the other tack. Wearing ship loses ground and therefore makes more changes of tack necessary. Full and by, that's sails full and by the wind. If you brace round the yards as much as possible, leave the spanker out a little and let the model go, she will find her own angle to the wind and can be sailed hands off with the rudder amidships. The real ships did it to make as good progress to their course as possible and still sail quickly, not possible if sailing close to the wind. Tacking across the wind. This is the most complicated manoeuvre for a model square rigger, as it was for the real thing. It allows the vessel to go about with the least loss of ground. Because we're trying to sail up the pond into the wind, the model is beating on one tack or the other. Just before trying to tack, the model is allowed to run off the wind a little to pick up speed and gain momentum. The spanker is pulled right in and the rudder put hard over into the wind. As the model turns across the wind, the sails are all quarter back with the wind on their forepart. When this happens, the yards on all masts except the fore are braced round onto the other tack and they start to fill with wind from astern. The yards on the foremast are still on the old tack, quarter back, and are now pushing round the model's bow. As the success of the manoeuvre becomes assured, the fore yards are braced round onto the new tack and progress is resumed. Here are some examples of the manoeuvre, also including the model wearing ship once. Go aboard one of these vessels. In the onboard sequence, we're on the starboard side of a model looking aft and sailing on the port tack with the port yard arms forward. The vessel is turned to port into the wind and you can see the mainsail move to starboard tack followed by the foresail. Progress then resumes on the starboard tack. Heaving to. This is the means by which a sailing ship came to a halt to pick up a pilot or to engage a tug. Real ships did it under much reduced sail and halt was a relative state. For a model it's almost impossible to simply lie on the wind and simply make leeway, but it is possible to stop, to go astern and to progress very slowly. Heaving to is attempted by having the yards on adjacent masts set on opposite tacks, so that some sails take the wind from ahead and some from astern. We're going to look at sails being taken all aback. If the wind suddenly veers round through 180 degrees, all the sails can end up with the wind on the fore part of them. On real ships it was very dangerous, often resulting in dismasting, but a model can use its ability to deliberately put the yards all aback, to act as an emergency stop and to manoeuvre in reverse. In the video you'll see a model near to running into the side of the lake stop, turn and sail away. scenes were filmed on the lake at Tynemouth. They involved videos of my sailing models of Peter Rikmers, Penang and Herzogin Cecilia, as well as stills of those and Joseph Conrad and Potosi. The real ships were Moshalo, Herzogin Cecilia, Pamir and Ponape. I hope you enjoyed the video and found it interesting. Goodbye.